Welcome to the 10 Minutes Gold Mine, where every book gives you a treasure of knowledge in just 10 minutes. The Road to Serfdom by Friedrich Hayek. Introduction. In The Road to Serfdom, Friedrich Hayek presents a powerful critique of centralized economic planning and its potential to lead to authoritarianism. Written in the 1940s, Hayek's work explores how government control over the economy, even with the best of intentions, can undermine individual freedom and ultimately lead to a totalitarian state. As governments expand their role in economic affairs, the result is often a concentration of power in the hands of a few, which restricts individual liberty and freedom. While the book was written in the context of World War II and the rise of fascism and communism, Hayek's ideas remain highly relevant in today's political discourse, where debates about government intervention and economic planning continue to play out. Part 1. The Dangers of Centralized Planning. Hayek begins his argument by addressing the rise of centralized economic planning, particularly in the early 20th century. He argues that the desire to create an efficient, just society through government intervention in the economy leads to a gradual erosion of individual freedom. While central planning may sound appealing at first, offering solutions to economic inequalities and inefficiencies, it creates a fundamental problem: centralization of power. Centralized planners, who attempt to regulate every aspect of the economy, do not have access to the vast amounts of information necessary to make informed decisions. Unlike individuals in a free market who make decisions based on local knowledge and personal preferences, central planners operate without this critical information. The result is inefficiency, waste, and ultimately a loss of freedom. As Hayek puts it, economic systems are too complex to be controlled by any central authority. The price mechanism, based on supply and demand, is the most effective tool for allocating resources, and it functions best when left to individual actors rather than the state. Part 2. The Illusion of Socialist Utopias. In the next part of the book, Hayek critiques the allure of socialist ideologies, which promise a utopia of equality and fairness. Socialist movements advocate for collective ownership of resources, with the belief that central planning can eliminate inequality and ensure fairness. However, Hayek warns that the pursuit of such a utopia often involves the use of coercion, leading to an erosion of freedom. The problem, Hayek argues, is that the socialist ideal depends on forcing individuals to comply with the decisions made by the state. While the aim is to create a society of equals, the result is often the opposite: a society where everyone is equally oppressed. Furthermore, Hayek notes that the centralization of power needed to implement socialist policies inevitably leads to the concentration of authority in the hands of a small group of elites, who are then able to dictate the terms of society. These elites, no matter how well-intentioned, are bound to make decisions that serve their interests rather than those of the general public. Even though socialist movements argue that they seek to improve society, Hayek emphasizes that central planning inevitably undermines individual autonomy. When the state takes control over economic decisions, it strips individuals of their freedom to make choices for themselves. And while equality may be the stated goal, the result is often less freedom, not more. Part 3. The Path to Totalitarianism. Perhaps the most chilling argument in The Road to Serfdom is Hayek's prediction that centralized economic planning leads directly to totalitarianism. He argues that once a government begins to control the economy, it will gradually extend its reach into every area of life. Politicians, seeking to implement their vision for society, will inevitably interfere in other areas, such as education, culture, and personal conduct. As this process continues, the government must increasingly rely on coercion and repression to maintain order. In a centralized system, Hayek notes, power is no longer distributed across many individuals and institutions. Instead, it is concentrated in the hands of a small group of government officials who have control over all aspects of society. These officials, regardless of their democratic legitimacy, can impose their will on the population without the checks and balances that exist in a more decentralized, market-based society. Over time, the government's interference in daily life grows, and the state must increasingly use force to quell opposition. Hayek argues that this slide into totalitarianism is not limited to dictatorship or communist regimes. Even democratic nations, if they embrace too much government control, risk sliding into authoritarianism. The key danger, according to Hayek, is that once a government takes control of the economy, it becomes much more difficult to undo these policies. Governments will naturally resist relinquishing power, even if they no longer serve the best interests of society. Part 4. The importance of individual liberty and the rule of law. At the core of Hayek's philosophy is the idea that individual liberty is paramount. A free society, he argues, is one in which individuals are able to make their own choices, free from interference by the state. This liberty is essential not just for personal fulfillment but for the advancement of society as a whole. When individuals are free to make decisions for themselves, they are motivated to innovate, work hard, and contribute to society. This drive for self-improvement and achievement ultimately leads to greater prosperity for everyone. However, Hayek recognizes that individual liberty must be protected by the rule of law. The law, in Hayek's view, should be impartial and applied equally to all individuals. It should serve to protect the rights of citizens, ensuring that no one is above the law and that people are free from arbitrary government intervention. Importantly, the law should not be used as a tool for social engineering or for imposing the will of a ruling elite. The government's role, according to Hayek, is not to dictate how individuals should live their lives but to ensure that they are able to live freely within the boundaries of a just legal framework. Hayek also stresses that the rule of law should be predictable and transparent. When the law is arbitrary or subject to change at the whim of the government, it creates uncertainty and fear, which undermines the very freedoms that it is supposed to protect. A predictable legal system, by contrast, allows individuals to plan their lives with confidence and certainty, knowing that their rights and freedoms will be upheld. Part 5. The role of markets and competition. In the final section of the book, Hayek discusses the importance of markets and competition in preserving both economic prosperity and individual liberty. He argues that free markets, driven by competition, are the most effective way to allocate resources and meet the needs of society. When individuals are free to buy, sell, and trade goods and services without interference, the market acts as a dynamic system that responds to changes in demand and supply. This flexibility allows markets to allocate resources efficiently and enables individuals to pursue their own interests. Competition, Hayek believes, is vital for a healthy society. It encourages innovation and drives economic progress. In a competitive market, individuals and businesses must constantly improve to stay ahead, which leads to the development of new products, services, and technologies. In contrast, government monopolies or centralized planning stifle competition, leading to stagnation and inefficiency. Without competition, businesses have little incentive to improve, and consumers suffer as a result. Hayek also argues that the government's role in the economy should be minimal. Governments should not interfere in markets by imposing excessive regulations or attempting to control prices. Instead, their role should be limited to maintaining a stable legal and economic environment where individuals are free to pursue their own interests. By allowing markets to function freely, Hayek believes that society will benefit from both increased prosperity and greater individual freedom. Conclusion. The road to serfdom remains a powerful critique of centralized economic planning and government intervention. Hayek's argument that government control over the economy leads to the erosion of individual freedoms and the rise of totalitarianism is as relevant today as it was when the book was first published. His defense of individual liberty, the rule of law, and free markets continues to resonate with those who believe that a free society is the best way to ensure prosperity and prevent authoritarianism. In light of Hayek's arguments, it's important to reflect on the role of government in today's world. Are we at risk of allowing too much government intervention in our lives? How can we balance the need for government action with the need to protect individual freedoms? Hayek's book encourages us to consider these questions carefully and to remain vigilant in defending our rights and freedoms. What do you think about Hayek's warnings on government control? Do you agree that central planning leads to the erosion of liberty? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. That's it for today's 10 Minutes Gold Mine. If you found value in this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep mining for more golden knowledge. See you in the next one.